E vocês fizeram essa entrevista depois da reunião.
I would like to suggest that the press will continue the interview after the meeting.
Fala com a gente depois da reunião,
Depois da reunião, o presidente quer falar, não quer falar. Eu sugiro que a gente comece a nossa reunião.
They're not great questions today, I must say. You know, they're sort of boring questions. But we'll see you later. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's President Trump having some fun as he trolls the media in Malaysia during his 5-day trip to Asia. And hello, everybody. I'm Joey Jones, along with Tommy Lahren, Lisa Booth, and Guy Benson. This is the final hour of the big weekend show. Thanks for sticking with us. Trump kicked off his tour in style by breaking out his iconic dance moves when he landed in Malaysia. Before he witnessed the signing of a peace agreement between Thailand and Cambodia, one that he helped broker. Trump has now ended 8 different conflicts during his second term. The president's trip continues tomorrow with a visit to Japan before heading to South Korea, where all eyes will be on his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. Trump convinced Beijing to agree to a framework on a rare earth minerals agreement that could lead to a possible trade deal, and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says the two sides have already made agreement for TikTok.
We reached a final deal on TikTok. We'd reached one in Madrid, and I believe that as of today, all the details are ironed out, and that will be for the two leaders to consummate that transaction on Thursday in Korea.
Tommy, do you think they'll consummate it with like a TikTok video? Is that what he means?
Be cute. I think a lot of people are excited to hear that. I'm still a little skeptical. I want to hear all the details on this TikTok deal so that I know that if I can get on it or not and rot my brain on all the stupid dances. But I like that this president is taking the time, making the big deals, making the big moves. I've been seeing Democrats all over the Sunday show saying, like, how dare he go to Asia instead of reopening the government, conveniently forgetting that they're the ones that are keeping the government closed. But he's continuing on business as usual. He's going to make deals for the American people in the best interest of our country. That's what he's set to do, and I'm very optimistic he's going to get it done. And he's dancing along the way. He truly loves his job, and we love that for him.
Lisa, you know, it's no small thing to broker another peace agreement between two countries. That was the 8th he's always claimed like 1 or 2 less. I don't remember exactly why, but the idea that he's done multiple times as president, he's helped find peace somewhere where peace wasn't. Now he's in Asia, which is, you know, that's the big enemy, right? China's there. That's the one that I know our government and our military fears. That's why we're posturing in the Pacific. How important is this trip?
It's very important. And remember, we were told by Hillary Clinton that President Trump couldn't be trusted with the nuclear codes. And then it turns out he's really the only one that should be trusted with it. And of course, this comes off the heels of his Middle Eastern trip where he got the Israeli hostages released. I love seeing President Trump on these foreign tours because you see how respected he is on the world stage, which is such a change than what we saw under Joe Biden for 4 years when we were so weak, when we really seemed like we were no longer the world's leading superpower. And that has changed. You know, we see that particularly when President Trump's on these tours. You know, I think this framework for rare earth minerals is great with China. We'll see where it goes. We'll see if a deal is formalized because China controls the majority of the world's rare earth elements. It represents a de-escalation between China as well. I think President Trump as an outsider has been able to strike. He sees national security and foreign policy through the lens of the economy as well. And so we're seeing a lot of that in the fruits of his labor. So we'll continue to watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to use a baseball analogy. You know, President Trump is that guy that kind of comes out as a Babe Ruth figure. Like, you just expect him to call a shot and hit a home run. But a lot of times it's small ball that gets the runs in. And that's what he does. It's making incremental steps towards something that works for us. And so, you know, my question to you is, he's on this trip to Asia. Everybody's distracted about the White House. He may not come back with this big, huge China deal, but he may come back having made steps forward. And that's really important.
Which is diplomacy, right, at its core. One thing that I want to point out that's interesting about this trip, we mentioned there that he'll be heading to Japan. Japan just recently, a few days ago, elected its first ever female prime minister, and she's a winger. She is a right winger. The left over there is very upset. And what's kind of cool about her, and this is, I think, interesting because Japan is getting a little bit more forceful again militarily, which they, for obvious reasons, after World War II, they stepped away from that, but they see the threat of China. So she's very clear-eyed on that. She's a big heavy metal fan. She's an amateur drummer, and she wears blue dresses in honor of one of her heroes, Margaret Thatcher. So I am a fan of this woman already, and I would imagine the president will probably meet her.
That's awesome.
Love that.
All right, as we reported yesterday, the Trump administration is increasing our military presence in the Caribbean to combat narco-terrorism. Our largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, is on its way to the region. There have been 10 strikes against suspected narco-terrorists so far, but one Democrat is calling the war on drug traffickers sanctioned murder.
No, it's murder. It's very simple. If this president feels that they're doing something illegally, then he should be using the Coast Guard. If there's an act of war, then you use our military, and then you come and talk to us first. But this is murder. It's sanctioned murder that he is doing that. It's disgusting what he's doing.
Tommy, sanctioned murder.
What is it with Democrats and always rooting for the other side? It's really amazing. It's like to our earlier point, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man, sanctioned murder. We're taking out narco-terrorists to protect the lives of innocent Americans. And they always root for the wrong side. And it never seems to be the American side that they root for in any conflict, in any decision. It's always to be anti-Trump. But to me, that's really hard to defend that position to the American people. So many Americans are touched by this. Not all Americans are touched by every conflict and every war and every battle, but most Americans are touched by the fentanyl crisis and narco-terrorism. So the fact that you got elected Democrats that think that they're representing the needs and the wants of the American people by calling this suspected or talking about this being sanctioned murder, to me, again, Democrats never miss an opportunity to be for the wrong side.
Yeah, I'm sure you understand there is, I guess, an intellectual argument here of they're not confirming who these people are on the boats. But every other indicator there shows that these boats have no other reason to be where they are, headed to where they're headed, or to be the boat that they are. So it's kind of like when I was in Afghanistan and a farmer is digging a hole in the road in the middle of the night and we shoot them, it's because they're not actually farming.
Yeah, so couple things here. I think if you look at some of the polling that I've seen, these operations are popular with the American people for reasons that Tommy was talking about, so I get that. I do think that there is a reasonable point to say if they feel like they have this ironclad evidence that these are drug boats filled with cartel members heading for us and they need to be blown out of the water for deterrence or whatever, I think having some role with Congress or maybe some more transparency with Congress on that information would be welcome, because I think Americans are fair people, and if there is someone innocent on this boat and we're making a mistake or something like that, you don't want to see the U.S. military being used that way. I think it's very likely that what we see is exactly what we think we're seeing, but I think giving some light, especially to Congress, on how they're doing it and some of the background details would be welcome.
Never going to be happy, Guy.
I appreciate what Guy's saying, but I mean, when we look at the members of Congress and how the leaks have been a problem and how the rhetoric is a problem, I don't know that presenting them any evidence would turn into anything other than them using that against the administration anyway.
Well, so there's a lot of precedent for President Trump to point to of presidents not going to Congress to get authorization of use of military force, right? It's kind of more common to not than to. President Trump just looks at this issue differently. He sees this as a war against these cartels. There's a reason why he designated them foreign terrorist organizations, why he's also invoked the Alien Enemies Act. So I think what we're saying is Democrats obviously don't see it through that lens, but President Trump does. And that's why he's using, these sort of actions in this military force, because he sees we're at war and we're under attack.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.